The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, carried by the fastest ship the Galactic Federation could spare. Ambassador Q-Jin sat in his office on Luna Station, reading the desperate plea that would change everything. 12 alien civilizations had united in fear. The Devourers had come. Q-Jin had heard stories about the Devourers, but always thought they were myths. Space legends told around campfires on distant worlds. Now he stared at real data. 3 star systems completely consumed, planets stripped bare, entire populations simply gone. The Federation wanted Earth's help. They needed soldiers. Lots of them, sir. His assistant Minsuk knocked on the door. Colonel Hansol is here to see you. Hansol entered wearing his standard black uniform. No medals, no ribbons. The Special Operations Command didn't believe in decorations. They believed in results. You've read the report? Q-Jin asked. Hansol nodded. The aliens want an army. Can we give them one? The colonel sat down and pulled out a small tablet. The Federation has sent us their battle plans. They want us to send 2 million soldiers to join their front lines. Standard warfare. Big battles. Honor and glory. Q-Jin waited. He knew Hansol well enough to recognize when the man was thinking. The problem is, Ambassador, the aliens don't understand what they're fighting. On the tablet screen, Hansol showed images of devourer creatures. They looked like giant insects mixed with machinery. Organic metal shells covered writhing flesh underneath. But that wasn't what caught Q-Jin's attention. Look at how they move, Hansol said. See the patterns? The creatures moved in perfect coordination, thousands of them acting like a single mind. No confusion, no hesitation. They float across battlefields like water. It's a hive, Q-Jin realized. Exactly. The Federation keeps sending armies to fight the drones. But you don't kill a hive by fighting the workers. You kill the queen. Major Sora entered the room carrying a thick folder. She was Hansol's best tactical analyst. If anyone could find a weakness in the Devourers, it would be her. We've been studying the Federation's battle reports, she said. Every engagement follows the same pattern. The aliens form battle lines, the Devourers attack in waves, both sides lose thousands, nothing changes. She opened the folder and spread out star charts across the desk. But look at this. Every Devourer attack is coordinated across multiple planets, sometimes light years apart. That requires communication nodes. Command structures. Captain Jae-woo arrived as Sora was explaining. He specialized in field operations, the kind of missions that never appeared in official reports. How many nodes? Hansol asked. We estimate 12 major command centers. They call them Queen nodes. Each one controls millions of drones across entire sectors. Q-Jin studied the charts. The Federation had been fighting the Devourers for 8 months. Millions of alien soldiers had died, but they had never even tried to attack the command structure. The aliens don't think like us, Jae-woo said. They see honor in facing the enemy directly. Big battles, heroic stands. They can't imagine assassination or sabotage. Hansol stood up and walked to the window. Outside, Earth hung in space like a blue marble. Peaceful, beautiful. Nothing like the war zones the Federation described. What are you thinking, Colonel? Q-Jin asked. The aliens want an army. 2 million soldiers to throw at the problem until it goes away. But this isn't that kind of war. He turned back to face the others. This is pest control. Sora smiled. She had been working with Hansol long enough to know where his mind was going. How many would you need? Q-Jin asked. 12. The ambassador blinked. 12,000? 12 people. The room fell silent. Outside the window, Earth continued its slow rotation. Somewhere in the galaxy, Federation fleets were dying by the thousands, and Earth's response would be 12 soldiers. You're serious, Q-Jin said. The Federation doesn't understand what humans are good at. Hansol explained. They've never seen our kind of warfare. To them, we're just another species that can hold a gun and follow orders. Jae-woo pulled out his own tablet and showed pictures of human special forces in action, not the kind of images that appeared in recruitment videos. Real operations. Silent killings in the dark. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years, he said. Not just battles, wars, total conflicts where the goal isn't honor or glory. The goal is to make the enemy stop existing. Sora pointed to one of the star charts. If we can eliminate the queen nodes, the entire hive collapses. No more coordination, no more strategic planning, just millions of confused drones with no one to tell them what to do. But 12 people? Q-Jin still couldn't believe it. Hansol sat back down. Ambassador, have you ever seen what one human can do when they decide someone needs to die? Kyujin had read the classified reports. Earth's shadow wars, operations that officially never happened, entire criminal organizations that simply vanished overnight, terrorist cells that disbanded after their leaders started dying in impossible ways. The aliens are thinking like armies, Hansol continued. Massive forces, supply lines, territory control. But this isn't about controlling space. It's about killing specific targets. And humans are very, very good at killing specific targets. Sora gathered up the charts. We'll need complete operational freedom. No Federation oversight, no coordination with their forces. They won't understand our methods. What do I tell them? Kyujin asked. Tell them Earth accepts their request for military assistance, Hansol said. Tell them we're sending our best people. Just don't mention how many, Jae-woo grinned. Let them think we're sending the army they asked for. They'll figure out the truth later. Kyujin looked at the three officers. These were not the kind of soldiers the Federation expected. No shining armor, no banners, no codes of honor. Just quiet professionals who saw problems and made them disappear. How long do you need to prepare? He asked. We already have the team selected, Hansol said. They've been training together for years. We just need to brief them on alien biology and devourer technology. And if it doesn't work? The three officers exchanged glances. It was Sora who answered. Ambassador, in the last century, humans have never failed to eliminate a target once we decided it needed to die. Why would the devourers be different? Kyujin nodded slowly. He would send the message to the Federation. Earth would help. But not in the way anyone expected. The galaxy had asked for an army. They would get something much more dangerous. They would get humanity's killers. The briefing room was darker than most military facilities preferred. But then, most military facilities didn't host meetings like this one. 12 people sat around a black table, and each one represented the kind of warfare that polite society pretended didn't exist. Squad leader Minho reviewed the files one more time. These weren't soldiers in any traditional sense. They were specialists in making problems disappear. First things first, Colonel Hansol said, entering the room. Everything we discuss here is classified beyond any Federation security level. The aliens cannot know what we're actually planning. Sergeant Yujin looked up from her tablet. She had been studying devourer biology for 3 days straight. Sir, their nervous system is completely different from anything we've encountered. But it's still a nervous system. Meaning? Meaning I can kill it. Yujin specialized in xenobiology, though her official records called it environmental adaptation studies. The truth was simpler. She learned how alien bodies worked so she could stop them from working. Corporal Tae-hyun sat quietly in the corner, cleaning a device that looked like a standard Federation communicator. It wasn't. Their technology is organic, he said without looking up. Living machines. Makes them harder to hack but easier to poison. Tae-hyun handled explosives and technological warfare. His personnel file listed him as a communications specialist. What it didn't mention was that he could turn any piece of technology into a weapon. Private Haiwan studied. The star chart spread across the table. She was the team's infiltration expert, though her cover identity claimed she worked in cultural exchange programs. She had spent years learning how to become invisible in alien societies. The Federation's intelligence is terrible, she said. They think the devourers just attack randomly. But look at these patterns. She pointed to attack routes on the star map. They always hit mining colonies first, then agricultural worlds. They're not just destroying civilizations. They're harvesting resources in a specific order. The other 8 team members listened without speaking. Each had their own specialty. Jinwoo handled close-quarters elimination. Byung-ho specialized in psychological warfare. Soo-young worked with biological weapons. Every person in the room could end lives in ways the Federation couldn't imagine. The aliens think warfare is about honor, Hansol continued. They believe in fair fights, noble battles, protecting the innocent. Very admirable. Also completely useless against an enemy that doesn't share those values. Major Sora entered carrying a new set of intelligence reports. We've intercepted Federation communications. They're expecting Earth to send a full battle fleet. 2 million soldiers, support ships, the complete package. What did Ambassador Kyujin tell them? Minho asked. That Earth's military response was already underway. He didn't specify numbers. The team members exchanged glances. They had worked together long enough to communicate without words. This was going to be interesting. Sir, Haewon said, what happens when the Federation realizes we're not an army? They won't realize, Hansel replied. Not until it's over. By the time they understand what happened, the Devourers will be extinct. On the main screen, images of Devourer attacks played in silent loops. Massive insect-like creatures swarming across alien cities. Federation soldiers falling back in disciplined retreats that accomplished nothing except preserving honor. Their mistake is treating this like a war, Tae-hyun said. Wars have rules. Soldiers, civilians, territory, objectives. This isn't a war. It's an extermination, Yujin nodded. The Devourers don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They consume everything and move on. The Federation keeps trying to find military solutions to what is essentially a biological problem, and biological problems require biological solutions, added Su Young. Captain Jae-woo joined the briefing, carrying sealed orders from Earth Command. The Federation has assigned us a liaison officer. Commander Yoonji. She's supposed to coordinate our operations with their military structure. The room fell silent. Coordination was the last thing they needed. How do we handle her? Minho asked. Carefully, Hansol said. She's a career officer. Believes in chain of command, strategic planning, military doctrine. Everything we're about to ignore. She'll want to know our battle plans, Sora added. Our troop deployments, supply requirements, strategic objectives. Give her what she wants to hear, Minho decided. Tell her we're conducting reconnaissance missions. Advanced scouting. Let her think we're the advance team for the real army. Haewon smiled. Sir, with respect, we are the real army. The Federation just doesn't know it yet. The briefing continued for 6 hours. They studied Devourer attack patterns, Federation military failures, and the location of every Queen node in the occupied territories. By the end, each team member knew exactly what they needed to do. One more thing, Hansol said as the meeting concluded. The Federation's military leaders will want to meet with our commanding officer. General Korthak of the Valorian Empire specifically requested a formal introduction. What should I tell him? Minho asked. Tell him you're honored to serve alongside such distinguished warriors. Tell him Earth's military is committed to victory. Tell him whatever he wants to hear. And if he asks about our numbers, tell him operational security prevents you from discussing troop strengths. Make it sound like we have so many soldiers that revealing the numbers would help the enemy. The team began gathering their equipment. Weapons that looked like standard Federation gear but functioned in ways the aliens couldn't imagine. Medical supplies that could heal human injuries or poison alien biology. Communication devices that connected to networks the Federation didn't know existed. Remember, Hansol said as they prepared to leave. The aliens think courage means standing in the open and fighting fair. They see honor in dying for a cause. We're going to show them what it looks like when someone fights to win. Yujin paused at the door. Sir, what if the Federation objects to our methods? They won't understand our methods until it's too late to object. By then, the Devourers will be gone and everyone will be celebrating victory. And if they figure it out anyway? Hansol considered the question. Then they'll learn something important about humans. We're not the honorable warriors they think we are. We're something much more dangerous. The team filed out of the briefing room, each carrying equipment and identities that would fool Federation security. To outside observers, they looked like a small advance team. Scouts and specialists preparing the way for Earth's mighty army. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Earth hadn't sent an army because the problem didn't require an army. It required exterminators, and humans were very good at extermination. The Zerian system looked like hell had opened in space. Commander Unji stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship, watching another failed assault on the Devourer positions. 300 ships had attacked at dawn. 50 had returned. Status report, Admiral Vextar demanded. Enemy forces are holding all strategic positions, the tactical officer replied. Our ground forces have been repelled from the mining colonies. Civilian evacuation is 70% complete. Yoonji studied the battle displays. 8 months of fighting and the Federation hadn't gained a single meter of territory. The Devourers just kept coming, wave after wave of them, perfectly coordinated, fearless. Admiral, the communications officer announced, the human advance team has arrived. Yoonji felt a surge of hope. Earth's military reputation was growing throughout the galaxy. They had ended 3 civil wars and stopped 2 pirate fleets just in the past year. If anyone could help turn this disaster around, it would be Earth's soldiers. How many ships? Admiral Vextar asked. 1 transport, sir. Small vessel. The Admiral frowned. Where's their battle fleet? Unknown, sir. The transport captain says they're here to conduct initial reconnaissance. Yunji requested permission to meet with the human forces. She expected to find a team of military engineers, maybe some intelligence specialists. What she found was 12 people who looked nothing like the soldiers she had imagined. Squad leader Minho introduced himself politely. He wore standard Federation gear, carried regulation weapons, and spoke with the kind of calm confidence she expected from experienced officers. But something felt wrong. "Commander," Minho said, "we appreciate the Federation's assistance in our mission." "Your mission?" "Reconnaissance and target assessment. We need to understand Devourer capabilities before our main forces arrive." Yunji nodded. That made sense. Earth's military was known for careful planning. "What kind of support do you need?" "None," the answer surprised her. "None. We prefer to operate independently. Coordination with Federation forces might compromise operational security." Sergeant Yu Jin stepped forward. She carried what looked like a medical kit, but Yunji noticed the specialized equipment inside. "Commander, we'll need access to Devourer specimens, dead ones preferably recent. For what purpose?" "Biological analysis. Understanding enemy physiology helps us develop better weapons." That also made sense. Yunji arranged for the human team to receive captured Devourer remains from recent battles. What she didn't know was that Yujin would use those specimens to create weapons the Federation couldn't imagine. Within hours, the humans had disappeared. Yunji tried to track them through the Federation's sensor networks. Nothing. She contacted their transport ship. The captain claimed ignorance about his passenger's location. She checked with planetary security. No record of the humans leaving their assigned quarters. "Maybe they're conducting covert reconnaissance," her aide suggested. Maybe. But Yunji had a strange feeling about the human team. They had asked too few questions, shown too little interest in Federation battle plans. Professional soldiers usually wanted detailed briefings, tactical assessments, strategic overviews. These humans had listened politely and then vanished. The first sign that something was happening came 72 hours later. "Admiral," the sensor officer announced, "we're detecting massive energy fluctuations in Sector 7. Admiral Vextar studied the readings. "Devourer activity?" "Unknown, sir. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database." Yunji watched the sensor displays. Sector 7 contained one of the larger Devourer hive structures. Federation forces had tried to attack it 6 times and failed every attempt. The thing was too well defended, too heavily fortified. Suddenly, the energy reading spiked and then dropped to 0. "What happened?" Admiral Vextar demanded. "Sir, the hive structure appears to be inactive." "Destroyed?" "No, sir, just stopped working." Yunji felt ice in her stomach. "Get me a detailed scan of that facility." The results made no sense. The hive structure was intact. No battle damage, no signs of explosion or assault. But every Devourer in the facility was dead. Not killed by weapons. Just dead. How is that possible? Admiral Vextar asked. Nobody had an answer. Private Hei-Wan had infiltrated the hive by disguising herself as a maintenance drone. The Devourers used organic technology, living machines that required constant biological upkeep. She had studied their maintenance patterns for days before making her move. Getting inside had been the easy part. The Devourers never expected infiltration because their hive mind could identify any of their own kind. But Hei-Wan wasn't one of their kind. She was something they had never encountered, a predator that could think like prey. Once inside, she had mapped the facility's nervous system. Every hive structure was essentially a giant living organism with its own brain. Hei-Wan found that brain and introduced it to a toxin that Yujin had designed specifically for Devourer biology. The hive didn't die violently. It just stopped thinking. And when the brain stopped working, everything connected to it stopped working too. 18 hours later, another hive went silent. This time, Federation sensors detected a brief explosion deep underground. When reconnaissance teams investigated, they found the facility's power core had overloaded, but the explosion hadn't started from outside. It had begun in the core itself, as if something had made the structure attack itself. Corporal Tae-hyun had spent 3 days studying Devourer technology. Organic machines were different from regular computers, but they still followed logical patterns. He had found a way to introduce false commands into their control systems. The hive hadn't exploded. It had been convinced to commit suicide. "This is impossible," Admiral Vextar said, studying the reports. Two major hive structures don't just fail simultaneously. Yunji was thinking the same thing. But she was also thinking about 12 humans who had disappeared without explanation. Admiral, request permission to contact Earth Command. For what purpose? I want to ask about the human reconnaissance team. They're conducting their mission. Let them work. But Yunji couldn't shake the feeling that the humans weren't conducting reconnaissance. They were conducting something else entirely. The third hive failure was different. Federation forces had been monitoring a massive devourer facility that controlled attacks across 2 entire planets. The structure had been active for months, coordinating millions of enemy drones in perfectly synchronized assaults. Then it started attacking itself. Sensor readings showed internal conflicts within the hive structure. Devourer forces turned on each other without warning. The facility's own defense systems began targeting its inhabitants. Within hours, the entire complex had torn itself apart from the inside. Sergeant Yujin had perfected her biological warfare. The synthetic virus she had developed didn't just kill devourers. It spread through their shared consciousness, carrying false memories and contradictory orders. The hive mind that made them so effective had become their weakness. Commander, Admiral Vextar called Yunji to his ready room. I want those humans found now, sir. 3 hive structures have failed in 1 week. That's not coincidence. Either the humans know something we don't, or they're causing this somehow. Yunji nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. What should I tell them when I find them? Ask them what they're really doing here, and ask them where Earth's army is. But Yunji couldn't find the humans. They had become ghosts in the Federation's own territory. Her security teams found no trace of them. Her sensors detected nothing. It was as if 12 people had simply vanished from existence. The only evidence they still existed was the growing number of dead hives scattered across the Zirian system. And Yunji was beginning to understand a terrible truth. Maybe the humans hadn't come to scout for an army. Maybe they were the army. Something had changed in the devourer swarm, and it terrified them. For the first time in their species' existence, the collective consciousness experienced an emotion it had no name for. Fear. The hive mind that connected billions of drones across dozens of star systems was encountering threats it couldn't identify, understand, or stop. Queen Node 7 had gone silent while processing resource allocation for an entire sector. No warnings, no distress signals. The consciousness simply ceased to exist. Queen Node 12 had turned its defense systems inward and destroyed itself. Queen Node 3 had begun broadcasting contradictory orders before falling into complete neural breakdown. The Devourers made a decision that went against millions of years of evolution. Instead of expanding, they would consolidate. Instead of consuming, they would hunt. Squad leader Minho received the intelligence update through encrypted channels. The Devourers were pulling back from their advanced positions, abandoning resource-rich planets they had spent months conquering. Federation forces celebrated this as a strategic victory. They were wrong. They're not retreating, Corporal Taehyun said, studying the tactical displays. They're focusing all their attention on finding us. The team had gathered in an abandoned mining facility on Zirion 4. The planet had been evacuated months ago, leaving behind empty cities and industrial complexes that provided perfect hiding spots for human operations. How many hives have we eliminated? Private Haewon asked. 6 major facilities, Minho replied. But that's not the important number. The important number is how many command nodes we've disrupted. Sergeant Yujin looked up from her biological analysis equipment. She had been studying devourer communication patterns, learning how their collective consciousness functioned. Every hive we destroy sends shockwaves through their entire network. They're not just losing facilities. They're losing pieces of their mind. Good, said Specialist Dongwu. He had been operating deep undercover, posing as a Federation maintenance worker to gain access to captured devourer technology. Maybe if we hurt them enough, they'll make mistakes. The mistake came 3 days later. Corporal Taehyun was conducting a deep strike mission against a bioprocessing facility that served 12 different hive structures. The target was heavily defended, surrounded by layers of organic sensors and automated defense systems. Getting inside would require perfect timing and exceptional luck. Taehyun had both. He infiltrated the facility during a shift change in the drone population. The Devourers rotated their workers every 8 hours, moving thousands of creatures in and out of the complex. During the transition, their security systems focused on organizing the massive population movement, instead of watching for external threats. The bioprocessing facility functioned like a giant digestive system. Raw materials from conquered planets were broken down into nutrients that fed the entire hive network. Taehyun planted his devices in the facility's control center, where organic computers managed the chemical processes that kept millions of devourers alive. But the devourers had been studying human tactics. They had learned to recognize the energy signatures of human technology. Taehyun's presence was detected just as he finished placing his final device. The facility's security systems activated immediately. Blast doors sealed every exit. Defense drones swarmed toward his location. Toxic gases flooded the corridors. Within minutes, Taehyun was completely surrounded with no possibility of escape. He activated his communication device and contacted Minho. "Squad leader, the mission is complete, but my position is compromised. Extraction options? None. They've got me locked down tight." Minho closed his eyes. He had been leading special operations for 15 years and lost only 3 people. Each death had taught him something important about the cost of their kind of warfare. "Orders, sir?" Taehyun asked. "Complete the mission." Taehyun understood. The devices he had planted could create a cascade failure that would destroy not just this facility, but trigger chain reactions across the entire network of connected hive structures, but only if he manually activated them. And manual activation meant staying inside a facility that was about to become the center of a biological explosion. "Understood, sir. It's been an honor." Taehyun initiated the cascade sequence and then settled back to wait. The devourers were trying to break through the reinforced door to his location, but they wouldn't make it in time. The bioprocessing facility began eating itself from the inside, converting its own structure into raw energy that spread through the network connections to other hives. The explosion, when it came, was visible from orbit. But more importantly, it eliminated an entire subspecies of devourer, warrior forms that had been causing problems for Federation forces across 4 different planets. Private Haewon watched the tactical displays as devourer positions collapsed throughout the sector. Taehyun's sacrifice had accomplished something no Federation army could have achieved. He had turned the enemy's greatest strength against them. "The devourers are adapting," she reported to Minho. "They've started studying our methods. That's why they detected Taehyun." "Then we adapt faster," Minho replied. Haewon's next mission proved the point. Instead of infiltrating another hive facility, she focused on the devourers' attempts to understand human tactics. She fed them false information, leaving fake clues about human technology, and forged evidence of Federation battle plans. The devourers' collective intelligence analyzed the false data and reached incorrect conclusions. They began expecting human forces to attack from directions that no human would ever choose. They deployed defensive measures against weapons that didn't exist. They prepared for battles that would never happen. While the hive mind focused on these phantom threats, Haewon led an entire swarm fleet into a trap. She had studied stellar phenomena in the Xerion system and identified a gravitational anomaly that could tear apart organic spacecraft. All she had to do was convince the devourers that a major human military target was hidden in that area. The false intelligence worked perfectly. A massive devourer fleet consisting of over 2,000 bioships moved to investigate what they believed was Earth's secret military base. They found instead a stellar phenomenon that shredded their organic hulls and scattered their remains across light years of space. Sergeant Yujin had been perfecting her biological warfare, while the others conducted their missions. The synthetic virus she had developed was ready for large-scale deployment. Unlike conventional weapons, it didn't destroy tissue. Instead, it modified the devourers' nervous systems, introducing errors into their collective consciousness. The weapon spread through the hive network like a disease, but its symptoms were confusion rather than death. Infected devourers began receiving contradictory orders from their command structures. Some were told to attack Federation positions that didn't exist. Others were ordered to defend facilities that had already been destroyed. The coordination that made them so dangerous began breaking down as false information poisoned their shared awareness. Yujin deployed the virus through captured devourer communication nodes, disguising her biological weapon as routine network traffic. The hive mind never realized it was being infected until the damage was irreversible. Federation forces across the Zirian system reported the same phenomenon. Devourer attacks became disorganized. Enemy forces began fighting each other. Entire swarms would suddenly change direction in the middle of battles, as if they had forgotten what they were supposed to be doing. Admiral Vextar called an emergency conference with his senior officers. "I want to know what's happening to the enemy. 6 weeks ago, they were coordinated and unstoppable. Now they're acting like they've lost their minds." Commander Yunji had been trying to track the human reconnaissance team for days without success. "Admiral, I think we need to consider the possibility that Earth's forces are responsible for these changes." "How? We haven't seen any major human military operations." "Maybe we're not seeing their operations because they're not the kind of operations we recognize." Admiral Vextar studied the tactical displays. The Devourer positions showed increasing signs of internal conflict and systemic breakdown. Whatever was happening to them, it was spreading through their entire network. "Contact Earth Command," he ordered. "I want to speak with whoever is commanding their forces in this system." But when Unji tried to contact Earth, she discovered something that changed everything. According to Earth Command's records, no human military forces had been deployed to the Zirian system. The reconnaissance team she had met was operating under classified orders that even Earth's senior commanders knew nothing about. She realized then that the 12 humans weren't scouts, preparing the way for an army. They were the army, and they were winning a war that the Federation didn't even understand was being fought. The Devourer hive mind was dying, and it didn't understand why. Across 17 star systems, the collective consciousness that had consumed entire civilizations was experiencing systematic failure. Not the sudden death of battle, but the slow dissolution of identity itself. Pieces of the network were going dark, carrying with them millions of years of accumulated knowledge and experience. Specialist Dongwu had spent 4 weeks deep inside a prime hive structure, the largest Devourer facility ever discovered. He posed as a captured Federation technician, forced to maintain alien equipment under Devourer supervision. The disguise was perfect because it was partially true. Dongwu had been captured, but not by accident. Getting taken prisoner had been the only way to reach the core consciousness chambers deep inside the prime hive. The Devourers brought their captives to the facility's center, where organic computers processed the knowledge extracted from conquered species. Dongwu had allowed himself to be captured so he could access those computers from the inside. For weeks he studied the patterns of the collective consciousness. The Devourers' shared awareness operated like a massive biological internet, connecting every drone to every other drone through quantum-entangled neural networks. It was their greatest evolutionary advantage. It would also be their extinction. Dongwu planted his final weapon in the heart of the network, not an explosive device or a toxin, but something far more dangerous. A cognitive virus designed to propagate through the quantum connections that held the collective consciousness together. The virus didn't attack the Devourers' bodies. It attacked their ability to think as a unified entity. Each infected node began broadcasting false information to other nodes. Navigation data became corrupted. Memory files contained impossible contradictions. The shared awareness that had made them unstoppable became a highway for their own destruction. The virus spread at the speed of thought through quantum connections. Within hours, every Devourer facility in the galaxy was infected. Within days, the collective consciousness began fragmenting into millions of isolated minds that couldn't remember how to coordinate with each other. Commander Yunji stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship, watching impossible displays on her tactical screens. Devourer forces throughout the Zirian system were shutting down. Not destroyed, not retreating, just stopping. "Status report," Admiral Vextar demanded. "Sir, enemy activity has decreased by 93% across all monitored sectors. Remaining Devourer forces appear to be operating without coordination. What's causing it?" Yunji had been asking herself the same question for weeks. The Devourers hadn't been defeated by Federation military forces. They had been systematically dismantled by an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't understand, and couldn't fight. "Admiral," she said carefully, "I believe the human reconnaissance team is responsible." 12 people? "Sir, I don't think they were a reconnaissance team." Admiral Vextar turned to face her. "Explain. Earth never sent an army to help us. They sent something else. Something we didn't recognize because we've never seen warfare conducted this way." On the tactical displays, another Devourer facility went silent. The third one that day, Junji had stopped trying to understand how it was happening. She was beginning to understand why. The humans don't fight like we do, she continued. We think about territory, strategic positions, supply lines. They think about eliminating specific targets. The Devourers were never their enemy. The hive mind was. Operative Subin completed her final preparations in the abandoned Federation research station orbiting Xerion Prime. She had been working alone for 2 weeks, assembling technology that existed in theoretical papers but had never been built. Until now, the device she constructed looked like a standard quantum communication array. But its function was far more sophisticated. It could weaponize the quantum entanglement that the Devourers used for faster-than-light communication, turning their own network connections into delivery systems for targeted neural disruption. Subin activated the device and watched as quantum signals propagated through Devourer communication channels. Every connected consciousness experienced the same phenomenon simultaneously. Their neural networks stopped functioning in an organized manner. The collective awareness that had defined their species for millions of years simply ended. The Devourers didn't die. They became something they had never been before. Individuals. Separate minds cut off from the shared consciousness that had guided their every action. Without the hive mind to tell them what to do, they simply stopped doing anything. Squad leader Minho received confirmation signals from the surviving team members. Dongwu had successfully deployed the cognitive virus. Subin had severed the quantum connections that held the collective consciousness together. The remaining operatives had eliminated enough command nodes to ensure that any attempt to rebuild the hive mind would fail. Mission complete. He reported to Colonel Han Sol through encrypted channels. Confirmed. All Devourer network activity has ceased throughout the galaxy. Minho looked around the empty mining facility that had served as their base of operations. 10 people had started this mission. Taehyun had died destroying the bioprocessing facility. Dongwu had sacrificed himself to place the cognitive virus in the prime hive. 8 humans had eliminated a threat that had stymied the combined military forces of 12 alien civilizations. What are our extraction orders? Private Haewon asked. We wait, Minho replied. The Federation will want to understand what happened. They'll have questions. What do we tell them? Nothing. Our mission never officially existed. Commander Yunji received the report from her reconnaissance teams 3 days later. The Prime Hive facility had suffered complete neural breakdown. Every Devourer inside was dead, but not from weapons or explosives. They had simply stopped living when their connection to the collective consciousness was severed. Deep inside the facility, her teams found the remains of Specialist Dongwu. He had been killed by security systems while trying to access the Hive's central computer core, but his mission had succeeded. Evidence showed that he had introduced some kind of virus into the Devourer network. One person did this? Admiral Vextar asked, studying the report. Yes, sir. But he wasn't working alone. We found similar evidence at sites throughout the system. The humans conducted a coordinated campaign against Devourer command structures. How many humans? Based on our investigation, no more than 12. Admiral Vextar sat down heavily. 12 humans had accomplished what millions of Federation soldiers could not. They had eliminated an existential threat to galactic civilization using methods that no alien military would have considered. Where are they now? Unknown, sir. They seem to have vanished, but the humans hadn't vanished. They were waiting in the mining facility for the Federation to process what had happened. Minho knew that Admiral Vextar would eventually demand explanations. The aliens would want to understand how 12 people had succeeded where their armies had failed. The truth would change everything. The Federation believed in honorable warfare, noble battles protecting the innocent through superior firepower. They would learn that humans had evolved beyond such concepts. When faced with an existential threat, humans didn't send armies, they sent killers. Sir, Haewon said, monitoring Federation communications. They're calling it a miracle. Admiral Vextar is reporting to the Federation Council that unknown factors caused the Devourer collective consciousness to collapse. Let them think it was a miracle, Minho replied. It's simpler than the truth. But Yunji was beginning to understand the truth. The humans hadn't come to fight alongside Federation forces. They had come to solve a problem that the Federation couldn't solve using the Federation's methods, and they had succeeded completely. The galaxy was safe from the Devourers. But Commander Yunji realized that the galaxy might have something new to worry about. A species that could eliminate existential threats with surgical precision. A species that fought wars the way others conducted assassinations. Earth had sent killers to save the galaxy. The question that kept Unji awake at night was simple. What happened when the killers decided they didn't need saving anymore?